Okay, right. Good morning, Borodar. Welcome to this morning's meeting of the Licensing Committee. We're all attending remotely this morning. My name's Philip Evans. I'm chair of the subcommittee sitting this morning. I can confirm that the committee officer has conducted a sound check. And before we have started, and can everyone hear me?
Yes.
In addition to the committee members, we also have officers joining us. We have to assist us in making our deliberation. We also have members of the public, some of whom are objectors to the application. Can I remind you all that the meeting is being recorded and will be available to view after the meeting is concluded on the council's website. For the purpose of people looking, the members of the committee should be indicated with an asterisk, little star next to their name. I think all the councillors present are members of the committee anyway. If you wish to speak, can you please raise the hand button, the blue hand button that's on the screen? And you can also use the chat facility, but please note you might not be able to monitor this during the meeting. All the mics will be muted. If you've indicated your intention to speak, you'll be invited to turn your microphone on. If you leave your device for any reason, can you please ensure that you're muted and turn the microphone off? So, item 1 on the formal agenda is apologies for absence, and I don't think we have any, do we?
No apologies, Chair.
Now, declarations of interest, the councillors and any other officer, if they have an interest in any matter, they need to declare the existence and the nature of that interest. I take it there are not any. Item 3, urgent items, there are none. And then item 4, which is the substantive matter before us this morning, is the opposed application for the variation of a premises licence in respect of the Wine and Champagne Lounge, the waterfront, Station Road in Deganwy. There have been circulated the procedure for hearings. Has everybody had a copy of the procedure? If that is the case, I don't feel I need to read through it all. We will be following the format or the batting order shown on page 3 of that document. Okay, so the item 4.2 is the report by the Principal Trading Standards and Licensing Officer on the application, which are found on the pages 14 to 19. Right, and there are appendices. Mr. Donnelly, do you want to introduce this report for us? Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will go through it now for you. Thank you. Sorry about this. It's just very slow this morning, my IT. Thank you, Chair. The application is with regards to an opposed application for variation of the premises licence, the Wine and Champagne Lounge, which is its formal name. There may be confusion on the name because the name hasn't been officially changed. It is known as the Waterfront on Station Road in Deganwy. The licensing authority received an application to vary a premises licence, submitted in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 in respect of the premises. The subcommittee must have regard to the representations made and take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The subcommittee can today grant the variation subject to the mandatory conditions consistent with the operating schedule, modify the variation and or impose conditions, to such an extent that the authority deems appropriate to promote the license objectives or reject the application. On the 26th of the 3rd, 2021, an application was submitted to the licensing authority with regard to the wine and champagne lounge. The application and the operating schedule are attached at Appendix A. I don't think I need to go through all the individual aspects, as the chair has already mentioned, that the application is to vary the license. There is no intention for members to be aware to alter any of the conditions that are already on the license, which are on page 26 of the document. So all those conditions will still apply to the premises because there's no requirement to be removed, altered or changed by the applicant. There's been no objections received from any of the responsible authorities, and the relevant representations engaged the engage the objections with regards to public nuisance and crime and disorder. The application was advertised in the appropriate manner, and all the appropriate notices were made. With regard to the premises, the licensing authority has no record of any complaints with regard to the operation of the present wine and champagne lodge, and the premises have been operating since 2014. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you for that, Mr. Donnelly. So we'll move on, and if the applicant would like to, or the applicant's representative would now like to give some background to the application and speak in its support and call any evidence. Mr.
Hello there, thank you, Chair. My name's Dave Barker. I'm the manager at the Waterfront de Gunway. We've made, an application to vary our license, mostly because we're going to be operating things a little differently to how the premises used to be run. With regards to things like live music, it won't be plugged in, it's all going to be acoustic. The late license was to go in tow with things like special events and not to be a continual thing. The bar itself is sponsored by LVMH, so we're looking at a horizontal table service drinking environment, so it won't be a loud sort of rowdy environment. That's absolutely not what we're going for. I know that's been a concern for some of the people complaining. So I'm just checking my notes. So yeah, we have done our own sound tests on the property, and we've found that at 73 decibels, the music inside the premises can't be heard outside. And so we're intending to keep it at 70 decibels. With the speakers that we have for recorded music, they've been facing away from the street and towards the ground from high up, so as not to cause disturbance further there. We're also looking into, well, we will have in place signage to encourage people to take into account that it is a residential area when leaving our premises. And the music license, although we've applied for the music to be going longer, we intend to stop at 11 p.m. The application going longer is for special events like maybe New Year's Eve and things like that.
Okay, is that all you wish to say at this point?
At the moment, yeah.
Can I just one thing you mentioned, New Year's Eve, because the current license does provide for an extension till 1 o'clock, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Yeah, so that isn't really relevant.
Okay, sorry.
No, what I mean is, if you have, you gave that as an example, but of course it's already covered. We're probably just wondering what other events you would be thinking of.
Okay, so we're looking to do, for our opening evening, we're looking to do like a charity event. So having a later license there would be a useful thing. But again, it's certainly not going to be the norm for the bar.
Right. Thank you for that. That helps us. Now I'll invite the objectors to ask you any questions on what you said. If I could start, Mr. Wells, do you want to start?
Yes, we lived directly above, and on one occasion where they had a private party, we could quite hear what was going on without a shadow of a doubt. We believe outside, when we stood on the balcony, we couldn't actually hear, we must admit, but when we're inside our premises, we could hear what was going on down below. Beforehand, when it was prohibition, they had a suspended ceiling because we did visit the place. We liked to go in the place.
Mr. Wells, can I just ask you to pause a moment? This little bit of the hearing is the opportunity for you to ask Mr. Barker questions. If you wish to make a statement, there's a provision later on in the hearing for you to do that. Okay.
Well, the question is basically about the special events, whereas it's already covered, like you say, by the New Year's Eve covering. Why would he need then extra hours by an occasional special event?
Why change it?
Yeah, why change it? Because it's quite, there's nothing wrong with how it is at the moment, or was.
Can you respond, Mr. Barker, please?
Certainly. It was just so we have the option for special events without having to directly apply for extended hours sporadically.
If I may, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Zollner.
With regard to the application of the operation schedule, there's no special events listed of the type that Mr. Barker was talking about. And if the license is granted as is, then the hours would be permanent and not just for special events. They would be for whatever opportunity the premises wish to use it for. And there's no caveat in either the operating schedule or the application for special events.
No, I appreciate that. And it was, so we could be, sorry, yeah, it was basically so we could host these things with shorter time periods in mind, you know, without having to go through a long process of that kind of thing. We're certainly not looking to have live music all the time and disturb anybody's evening. That's not what we're looking for.
Okay. What is Mr. Donnelly, the time scale for applying for a 10 is not that long.
It can be as little as 10 days.
Yeah. So a special event, one assumes that would be known about some time in advance.
A temporary event, Chair, members, a temporary event was brought in by government under the Licensing Act to allow for premises to vary their licenses for special occasions temporarily, and that's the purpose of a temporary event notice.
Thanks for the clarification. Right, Mr. Wells, will be anything else to ask at this stage?
Well, Mr. Barker, if it is for just special events, what is the problem with just using the 10-day notice?
Okay, so when I say about it being for special events, the music side of it being attached to the late license is where I need to clarify. We won't be having music until this late license. Or that we would like to have the option to be open for longer, like during the summer months and things like that. We're certainly not looking for absolutely every weekend throughout winter and autumn and be open late, but obviously we would like to be open for the Friday and Saturdays a little later than we are at the moment.
Are you not just inviting people that when places close in Conway or Llandudno that close at normal hours just to follow on to your place and stay there till late in the morning, early morning, sorry?
We don't foresee that happening, particularly because of the way the establishment's going to be run. Most of the people in will have pre-booked and will have been there all evening. So I don't see us having, I think we're too far away from all of the other establishments for that to be an issue.
Taxi ride away.
But it's a taxi ride away, and in other places it is known to happen. That's what does happen. When places close at 11, they follow on to somewhere else where they can get a drink, basically.
Certainly, I can appreciate that. But again, I don't think, with the type of establishment we are, and the fact that we are looking to fill most of our tables with bookings rather than walk-ins, and it is a tabled service rather than a walking around drinking establishment. It's all horizontal drinking based. So,
And the live music, a variation of live music, heavy rock, that sort of thing, or what?
no, not at all. Not at all. So the live music will be ambience based for the waterfront. It's going to be unplugged, all acoustic, nothing heavy at all. So it's background singers and a guitarist maybe.
Is that planned for every weekend?
Not for every weekend, no.
Most weekends throughout the season.
Excuse me.
Like,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm a little lost.
I'm sorry that I'm
It's my
Mrs.
wife.
Wells. Mrs.
You're
Wells.
Mrs. Wells. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Sorry about
I
that.
won't interrupt. Sorry.
No, it's not planned for every weekend. Like I say, the music side of things we're looking to do occasionally, and it will be more throughout the summer months than any other time of the year.
Okay. Right. Have you concluded your questions, Mr. Wells? Or?
Question-wise, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Right, Councillor Roberts and Councillor Wood, have you any questions you want to ask to me?
Can you hear me, Chair?
I can hear you, John, yes.
Yeah, I think my question has been answered when Mr. Marcus said it was going to be acoustic music and unplugged. And the other question I was going to ask, he did mention the fact that the speakers, it turned inward. I presume that's for background music while people are eating. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. We only want music there as an atmospheric aid, basically. So it's all going to be very light in the background. Like I said, with our sound tests, 70 decibels couldn't be heard from the street, and that was very much on the high end, and we wouldn't be looking to go that high throughout the day or even the evenings. It is very much a service-based experience we're looking to offer, so the music isn't the main focus of the evening.
Okay, and I'll finish still on music. Where are you going to get your acoustic artists from? Have you got any plans on the type of acoustic bands that you've approached or are going to approach?
We're currently looking into it. We haven't actually found any yet. We've found one lounge singer who does sort of 20s and 30s sort of cover songs. So
that's fine. It's important for us to know what kind of music you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Chair.
Councillor Wood.
Right, Chair, can I address Mr. David Barker, please? Okay. Can you just tell me how much music you are actually, how many nights you're using presently? Or how many, obviously we've just already or previously, how many nights you've had music on. Has it been every weekend, Friday, Saturday? I'd like to know, are you operating a booking system and a table waitress system prior to lockdown and started operating it now? So I walked in there, would it be that so? Yeah, that'll do for now. And did you play music up to 11:30, which was the licensing requests and requirements before? Thank you.
I certainly believe the previous management of the property did have music on until that time. I'm not sure that they had it on all of the time. I think with them it was maybe throughout the weekends, not throughout the week. For us, the background music, like the recorded music, would be on throughout the day, and live performances wouldn't be every weekend. It would be maybe once a month.
If I may, Chair. The present license has no facility for live music. It's recorded music only, but the premises could benefit from the Live Music Act and have live music up until 11 o'clock in accordance with the Licensing Act. So although it's not seen on the license, the Live Music Act does allow live music on premises. With regards to the type of music, if I may, Chair, ask Mr. Barker a question. When you were saying unplugged, does that mean unamplified or the generic term unplugged as in live music? Because there's a specific difference. Amplified and unamplified and unplugged are different matters. So is it unamplified, therefore people come and play acoustic instruments and sing acoustically without an amplifier? Because that's the definition there, not necessarily unplugged.
Sorry, I should have been more specific with that. Yes, absolutely unamplified.
Okay, because there's nothing in the operating schedule, members, or in the conditions of license that would cover the requirement to have unamplified music at present.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and to address your other questions, Councillor Wood, the service is always a table service, so it's always waited on. So we don't want to encourage people walking around the bar. It's very much, we're trying to provide a high-end experience, so people are waited on and encouraged to stay seated. And that will continue well past anything to do with COVID.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, if we completed that part of the business, we can turn Mr. Wells to you to, if you like, call your evidence or witness or explain why you're opposing the application.
We're opposing basically because we live directly above it, or we're going to live directly above it. We bought the premises approximately 2 years ago and renovated it, and just finished renovating it due to COVID, which has taken a long time. We did frequent the Prohibition Bar beforehand because we used to rent places on the stretch there on Station Road, basically because it was a nice quiet place. It was just a nice place to be. The premises as was used to have live music on. I think it was on a Thursday night, very rarely, which was very nice and very well done. It wasn't loud. It wasn't anything that we think might happen if the extended license goes ahead. The old premises, before it's been renovated, and it's been nicely renovated, but the old premises had a suspended ceiling. So when we was above, you couldn't hear anything really, because the suspended ceiling had a bit of a soundproofing. The suspended ceiling has now been taken down completely, and we can hear what's going on below. So it's with the gentleman saying that there's speakers going to face down and the music, we can still hear above. You might not be able to hear outside so much, but we can hear above quite a lot. We're quite happy there before. When it finished at 11 o'clock, it was a nice place to be. Now, as I say, we're a bit concerned because obviously if we're living above there or going to live above there, we don't want to be kept awake till 2 o'clock in the morning. That is our main concern, is our basically well-being of being above the place. The soundproofing, you've got single glazed windows at the front. You've only got one set of wooden doors leading to the main road or the street. Most music places either have double glazing or they have 2 sets of doors, I believe, so that it contrasts the sound travelling back and to. When we're not, you know, engineers or anything like that. The gentleman said he's done a decibel test. We could obviously have a decibel test, I think, upstairs if that's allowed. But if the license goes ahead, we can only do that after the event. It's basically, we're just concerned about our well-being living above the place because we bought it as a retirement place, really, and it's might not go that way at the end of the day. There's not a lot more to say, I'm afraid. It's just we're a bit concerned about that. The main thing is the noise.
Extension.
And that's due to the extension, really. We're quite happy to live there if it's till 11 o'clock, 11:30, which we knew about that when we bought our place. And then this extension's come as a bit of a shock, shall we say, because it would obviously spoil us living above the place. And concerned that the music night might turn the place, I know Mr. Barker says not, and he's saying it's going to be an upmarket type situation, which totally agree. We'll visit the place ourselves. We like places like that. But what we're concerned about is that it turns into a nightclub scenario, where, as I've mentioned before, people will travel from Conway when the pub's shut in Conway and then go to the waterfront because it's the only place to get a drink at that time of night. That's our main concern.
Thank you, Mr. Wells, for that. Mr. Wells, Mr. Barker, do you want to ask Mr. Wells anything on what he said?
No, I think he's been quite clear with his concerns there. So.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Chair.
Yes.
As I have to advise members, we don't have a cumulative impact policy. Therefore, the operation of other premises can't be taken into consideration by the members. It is this particular premises and the operation of this premises that has to be taken into consideration. And there are numerous other premises within the area that have hours that are far longer than this particular premises. But the members need to ensure that we do not have cumulative impact assessment, so they can only take into account the operation of this premise. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Right, thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Members, have you anything else you'd like to ask the objector? If not, Mr. Wells, it now reverts back to you, and you can make a closing speech if you want, if you feel there's anything else you wish to cover.
No, I've done that. And no, I think I'm just being quite plain and honest. This is not the scenario we've been through before, so we're not used to this type of meeting or wherever. We're just trying to put our point forward that we do live above the premises, or going to live above the premises permanently when we retire, and that's what we bought it for. And we're just concerned that our well-being as we get older will be disturbed if it does turn into a nightclub scenario. And you've got the places as it is now, and it was for the last so many years that we've visited the place and stayed there, has been a nice quiet residential area with basically a retirement type scenario. That's why we actually chose the place, you know, which we've done, and we've modified it, we've renovated it to a great extent, and it looks really well, including what they've done to the waterfront down below. So the premises look really nice. We just feel that if it goes ahead as a nightclub scenario, or as a heavy music night or a loud music night, our personal lives will suffer. That's our main concern, and it's not what we envisaged or bought the place for, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Okay.
There's not a lot more to say. It's just that's how we feel, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there are. You'll be aware that there are written representations, although you're the only objector in person this morning. There are written representations from other parties as well.
Yes.
Mr. Barker, it's up to you to make your closing speech now, if you like.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered most of what we're doing. I just want to talk about the premises and our vision for it. It is, as we say, upmarket. We're sponsored by LVMH, which are a very prestigious company. And if we were to vary away from what we're portraying to do, we'd actually lose that. So, you know, that's very set in how the business is going to be run. I know Mr. Wells is worried about us becoming a nightclub scenario, but that's certainly not something we're looking to do. It's completely wrong for the area to have that sort of mindset, right? And I'm in full agreement with him with that. The music is never going to be a club style music, especially the live music. It's not going to be that loud, amplified music. Yeah, I mean, as we've been upgrading the building, and so we've tried to take the local community into mind. So we've built this place to try and fit with the area and to try and sort of raise the standards of what was there previously.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
If I may just comment, Chair, LVM, just for clarity, LVMH, is that Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, or is it another?
No, that's correct. Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy.
So just for members to be aware that the premises is sponsored by I just wanted to clarify with Mr. Barker who LVMH was for the members.
Sorry, yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, what does sponsored entail in this context?
They're basically putting their brand into our bar. So, and they're quite selective with who they do that with. So.
Okay. Right. Well, there being no other public business, the public part of the meeting will now be closed. The committee members and the legal officer and the committee officer will retire in private for the members to deliberate and come to a determination of the application. The legal advisor will prepare the notice of the decision following our discussion, and the decision and the reasons therefore will be issued in writing within 5 working days of today. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you both for your attendance this morning and for the representations you've given us to help us to come to a deliberation on the matter. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you.